Hello Vanja, so thank you very much for welcoming us in your office in Geneva. Welcome to this Swiss LegalTech Association interview. So Lawrence is amongst the first legal tech startups that was created in Switzerland, especially in Geneva. And you were amongst the first entrepreneurs to enter this field when it was still being discussed vaguely, but nobody really knew what it was about. And so today we'd like to go back on your journey and hear a bit more about your experience. So perhaps maybe you would like to start by introducing yourself and Lawrence for whoever doesn't know about the product and service yet.
Thank you, Nicolas, for having me today. And so my name is Vanja Mégevand. I'm attorney at law registered at the Geneva Bar. And around 5 or 6 years ago, I initiated Lawrence, your reference in law, which is a startup today counting 16, 17 employees. So we're slowly growing, and which acts as a legal intermediary between both clients and lawyers. As an attorney at law, I felt that there was a clear need for such legal intermediary to help clients find the right lawyer, actually find out if they really need a lawyer or not, discuss maybe the preliminary steps before ongoing to a proper procedure, and have a better overview on the cost that will be needed and the time the entire matter would take to solve their problem, and in the end being put in connection and in contact with the right specialist that will be able to solve their legal problem. So today Lawrence is a software, an AI-based software that actually analyzes our clients' questions, that help them discover which is the right procedure to undertake, at which cost, if there is any risk or chances of success, before putting them in touch with the right specialist, not only in Switzerland but also internationally.
That's fantastic. So the first question I'd like to ask you, we know that we'd like to have more women in the legal tech industry, and we've been seeing more and more women in the legal tech industry. But a long time ago, you were the first one. So we'd be very happy to hear the advice you'd give to women when they're launching their own businesses, when they want to enter the legal field as a startup.
So if I have to come back on my little experience, I must say that I was extremely happily surprised to see how women are actually pushed towards the entrepreneurship. And giving advice to my colleagues would really be to push forward and never doubt or second guess their intuition, because intuition is part of the journey, but is also the, let's say, the engine that will bring a project to life. And I see young women, or most women, sometimes doubt themselves and their skills, because we do live in a very manly and strong ecosystem, especially in the legal industry. But I find that actually women have a lot of power, and they can really be brought much further than men when it comes to entrepreneurship, especially in the legal industry.
And from my own experience, it really adds a different perspective on the same issues. So I can only be happy that we have more and more women engaging, because we need that extra perspective. Only a manly perspective is not going to be enough. So how did you go about building your team, about deciding who's the right people to help you? How did the vision for Lawrence emerge?
So vision and teams are two separate questions, but the vision was actually when I was sitting in an Uber in San Francisco. I just found myself realizing that although we could find very quickly the right driver at the right price to take you from a point A to a point B, such solution did not exist in the legal industry, and yet I thought that potentially a lot of people might want a similar process to be able to accompany them in their legal problems. As for the team, it took me quite some time. Initially, as I'm a sole founder, I was hoping desperately to find a co-founder that would actually have the same vision, the same drive to push this project further. So I would usually interview a couple of friends or colleagues that I would know and have them take a 3-month test. Sometimes the test would be shorter, sometimes it would be longer, but to really see if they could actually survive the pressure of a startup ecosystem, which is actually really constraining for so many reasons. And after a couple of years, I'm still the sole founder. I haven't found a co-founder, but yet I surrounded myself with a fantastic team of a legal team, a tech team, a developer IT team, a marketing team as well. So building these teams was actually like made possible by myself getting a bit at ease with the different topics that I needed people to help me with. So I would actually learn a bit of coding, learn a little bit of marketing, and find the right people that would be able to execute my vision. And still today, I'm extremely satisfied with the global team that we have been able to manage all together, and the consistency of their work towards the same vision and building the same fantastic company, hopefully rather sooner than later.
You point out a really important point, is that when you're trained as a lawyer, you really only learn the law. So you point out very correctly that you have to teach yourself absolutely everything that isn't legal matters, right?
Correct. So this was one of the biggest challenges, especially when it comes to finance and fundraising. I absolutely have no idea of how to do a market research, but I had to initiate myself to this process that might seem complicated and tricky. I mean, instead of hiring specialists to do so, I trained myself and learned how to build a business plan and how to find the right investors. So this was, I think, the trickiest part. And then the other part that might not have been so easy was to actually build the very first chatbot, because initially we did not have the funds to create the platform as it is today and as it exists today. So I actually started coding the very first chatbot. It was a very basic chatbot, but it took me a couple of weeks to understand the entire functioning of a code and how to implement it on a domain. So yes, but by doing so, I actually could understand the requirements and tell my teams what exactly to do, because if you don't go yourself through these steps, it's difficult to actually manage and direct your teams towards a common goal.
And that takes us to a very important point. It's what are the most valuable lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Because you mentioned one, which is learning yourself on the job, everything you're lacking, and you don't know you're lacking until you feel you find yourself in front of the problem. So what would be two valuable lessons you've learned, the biggest takeaways from your experience?
So I feel a startup is one of the biggest challenges that someone can actually go through, professionally speaking. I think that in the very beginning, one should outline the reasons why they chose this path and what is their end goal. And although they might face challenges and problems, they should never doubt this initial intuition, as I was telling you earlier. I feel that the intuition and the goals should always be those to follow, although you face challenges and problems, and always keep going. That would be one of my main advice when it comes to building a startup. And never listen to what people have to say or any sort of discouragement that you may face. I feel that keeping your line and your head very straight towards the one goal that you were pursuing in the beginning of your venture is the best one can do to actually succeed.
Wise words. How have you managed to adapt, Lawrence, to the changing landscape? Because you started with Product 101 and you've been adapting it over the years. So could you perhaps walk us through how you adapted, how you keep in touch with what the market is asking for, how you improve your products? How does that work for you?
So it's a very interesting question, because I think that one of the best decisions, although one of the hardest one that I took while starting this project, was to never let go of my clients. Meaning that although I could have acted as a sole founder and slowly acting as a founder and not an attorney anymore, I decided to keep my practice very alive, very much alive, to be able to hear the client's needs and to adapt to their needs constantly with our digital products. I feel that putting the client in the epicenter of this project has been something that was absolutely needed to find the right ways to circumvent their problems and to find the key solutions to their legal issues. Secondly, I always tend to stay very much informed of what technology brings us today, and our CTO is absolutely fantastic because he really understood the power of linking both the new technologies, the newest technologies to the legal industry and the legal world, and both together we constantly, maybe a couple of times a week, discuss of what could be implemented, what new technology could benefit our project, how could we actually maybe put a bit more budget in a certain technology to be better and help our clients better every day. So I feel that these are the two main lines to follow.
That's really interesting. I mean, I can slip in an unexpected question. ChatGPT, have you considered it?
Absolutely, and actually when ChatGPT started becoming famous back in September, October, November from last year, it was the exact idea I used to have in my Uber a couple of years ago. So I was actually really satisfied to see that finally, although I faced so many people trying to tell me how bad my idea was or try to dissuade me from my key goal and vision, to see that actually this ChatGPT is somewhat very similar to the idea I initially had. So a couple of years ago, after initiating the process and the project, we started to train a similar AI to ChatGPT. So today our algorithm is based on GPT-4, and we do train the same algorithm to with our clients' problematics to be able to actually help GPT become even more performant. It was actually a fantastic news when we all saw GPT having so much success a couple of months ago.
Oh, that's great. So you were saying that you kept your job as an attorney and you developed Lawrence at the same time. Those are two independent, fully self-employed occupations at the beginning. That is a gigantic amount of work. And my experience is, with speaking with startup creators, those who succeed are often those who put everything they have everything else they have aside, and they focus almost exclusively all their energy on the startup. So that makes you kind of a superwoman. So can you say a few words about that?
Well, I mean, it's true that it's such a big project and two big projects, but initially being an attorney helped me also finance the project as we did not have funds. But it's true that you let go of a lot of passions, you let go of a lot of friendships as well. It's a very lonely path, but I feel that it's extremely rewarding, especially when you can actually bring a team together that believes in your vision, that believes in your project, that is so supportive. Sometimes when they see that you're a bit more tired, and that you need to rest, they're here to really back you up. And this is something that I can actually not even put words on. It's so rewarding that it's definitely worth the try. It's true that my path is a bit different. I do not have a family. I do not have any sort of activity aside my career. But I'm sure that very soon, and with the fantastic team I have brought together, that this will change, hopefully.
Which highlights the importance of the team and the team building and making sure you hire profiles that will work together cohesively well.
Absolutely, this is key. And although a founder is always the engine and brings people together and the motivation as up as it should be, the team is 80% of any project, and without good people, the project is dead. And if tomorrow, God forbid, anything happens to me, I know that Lawrence will be really self-sustainable with this amazing team.
Well, that's a very good thought to be able to have. So perhaps there was a lot of good points. We know that the path to creating a product, there's a lot of ups and downs. Would you be happy to walk us through a low moment you had and how you overcame it?
There are lots of low moments. I must say that maybe one day out of two is a low day. There are low moments every day throughout the day, but I feel that the biggest challenge I face on a daily basis is the speed. I tend to really try to overachieve and to push my teams towards deadlines. I mean, that's how us lawyers have been trained, and you know that yourself. We always have deadlines. We always have to respect, even though sometimes we cannot go to bed or finish work. We really have to stay and finish before the deadline has passed. And this is not the same concept with developers, with ITs, with marketing teams that sometimes do not have such concept of deadlines. So when I come up with an idea, I always try to have a proper fixed agenda with the teams, but it tends to be really frustrating when these dates are not respected and when the project tends to become a bit longer than what usually was expected. Another big challenge that I had to face is the Swiss help funding. We have amazing institutions in Switzerland, but I find that they're overly complex, and the procedures to actually be able to raise funds with these institutions is almost impossible. Although the projects are of great, are absolutely amazing and can really set Switzerland as visionaries in tech. Our Swiss institutions, I'm mainly talking about Swiss, which is the Swiss Funds for Innovation, has not been really helpful, although we applied many times for funding. So this was also a bit of a challenge as a business owner in Switzerland.
So it's not just a legend that you see the success pictures on LinkedIn, on Instagram, etc., but there is so much sweat and tears and blood behind it.
Oh no, of course, totally. I think we don't even show how difficult it is, just because today success, and especially in Switzerland again, is everything. Failure is not really accepted, so you cannot show your bad days, although maybe you should. But it's true that you tend to always show the best of yourself, and today was a very long day, but I keep on smiling, so no one can actually see how difficult today was.
It's good to hear it, because a lot of people then when you want to create something, you don't expect it, because you've had this notion, you've lived in this bubble when you were looking up other entrepreneurs, and maybe it's a message that doesn't come across as easily. So I think, from my experience, people enjoy hearing what the challenges are and that they exist. So it's very grateful that you were willing to share about the difficulties of the entrepreneur life. So in a more cheerful topic, mentorship and networking are very important, often quoted as important when you're creating a business. So in your opinion, what role did they play when you built Lawrence?
So initially, mentoring was very important. As a lawyer, I did not have any sort of experience in entrepreneurship, in building a startup, founding, creating a website and a software. So I really needed to be surrounded with the right mentors to be able to accompany me in this journey. Thankfully, I had amazing, and I still have amazing mentors to surround me when in doubt. And this, I was always really relying on them, and a couple of times a month, sometimes a week, whenever there's a problem that arises, they're here to help and to listen and to provide very useful and beneficial advice. As for networking, I think it's like the team, it's another 80%. So if the team is 80%, you would have to dedicate 80% to networking as well. Networking is key. Although we spend a lot of time on our phones, on our laptops, on social media, networking is absolutely key, because if you actually are self-confident and socially presentable and you're at ease when talking in public, I think that it impacts way more than any sort of digital marketing or paid search on internet. Trust is all. People tend to really give a lot of credit and actually to really trust people that they meet in person. So I spend a lot of time on networking, of presenting and at different conferences or events to be able to really attract the right people that will be the ones, not necessarily looking for you on the internet, but coming to listen to what you have to say or meeting you in person. And I think that networking is absolutely key.
Thank you very much. So the big question is, on many people's minds, the legal services are being changed as we know them. We know there are many more service providers than 10 years ago. We have alternative legal service providers. We have chatbots. We have now GPT that is able to provide advice, although it's more about language than real advice. So how do you see the future of legal services? I'm not even going to say in 5 years, because it's going to be so much different that I'm not sure we can anticipate the next 5 years. But what does the future look like in your opinion, for both for law practitioners and for the general public?
Yeah, thank you for this question, because I feel that a lot of people and a lot of lawyers might be worried about the future, thinking that they will be out of a job, or that people will actually prevail and find information on these chatbots and AIs rather than seeking for legal professional. But out of my own experience, and although we tried since day one to initiate digitalized legal services and online-based solutions, we always accompany clients with real humans and real specialists, because that's what clients in need, with legal problems, need. They want to be reassured by a proper voice, a proper human being that has faced similar problems, that has gone through similar procedures, to be able to actually humanize the answer that will be given by these chatbots. So yes, of course, there will be an increased need of digitalization within the legal industry, but I'd rather say it would be like, I see it as a help for practitioners rather than something that is going to unserve them. And clients will always remain human, and robots will never be able to replace emotions, laughter, tears. And talking to a proper human specialist, a real lawyer, will never stop. And it's just about helping professionals and helping both worlds match, rather than creating a massive distortion.
So I hear in your answer that it's really not just about the price.
It's, millennials, our future generation, will look at the legal services. They will want legal services to be extremely specialized, very, very to the point. So when they have a question, they do not want a vague answer of, it depends. Lawyers are very good at providing such information. But I feel that they will be able to pay the right price if they know that the answer is the right one. So this will take a couple more years, I'm sure. It's not a question of pricing. It's really a question of excellency, in my opinion, because millennials are very interesting animals. They most of them are lazy or extremely demanding, and they want really high-end answers to very specific problematics. I don't think the price will be a problem.
All right, thank you. And in what ways do you plan, if you can share it, of course, do you plan to innovate with Lawrence? What would you like to see in the future for Lawrence? So
I'll keep some information confidential, if you allow me to do so, but I recently was fascinated about the move of populations. Some of them unfortunately have to migrate because of political conflicts, but others simply migrate because they see business opportunities internationally. And this internationalization of populations, of entrepreneurship, of assets is something that I would really want to focus on, because who says new laws says new problems as well, and new legal problematics. And I'm sure that with our software, our future softwares to come, and our company, we will be able to address these international problems that will raise a lot of interesting legal questions.
Thank you. And so, what would you like Switzerland to do in order to make entrepreneur life easier? What are we missing in Switzerland?
I feel that although we do have some incubators that might be here to initiate the first entrepreneurial steps, I still feel today that entrepreneurship is not sufficiently, let's say, financed, or entrepreneurs are not helped with fundraising. Myself, I had to go to my own private network to raise funds, although I know that Switzerland is one of the wealthiest countries and they do have institutions that help entrepreneurs building their projects, but you always have to be associated to a Swiss university, which I was not. I was a legal specialist and I had a long time, I was over with my legal studies, so I was not in a university anymore. And I felt a bit lonely while fundraising, and I'm sure that Switzerland can do much more for Swiss entrepreneurs like me.
Or perhaps also infrastructure, or perhaps tax incentives. I've heard these come up.
There are plenty of solutions, and I think there's a long list to be done, but the first steps with financing, in my opinion, would be already very helpful.
Yeah, very true. Thank you very much. So would you like to remind the viewers what you offer, what they can contact you for?
Of course, so Lawrence is the first online-based legal platform, legal tech platform that actually provides clients with a preliminary legal orientation in any sort of legal problem, addressing then the problematic of the costs, how much it will cost them, how much time it will take, and who is the right specialist to seek in said problem to come up with the best and most efficient solution to their legal challenges.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. This was Vanja Mégevand from Lawrence, your reference in law. We hope to see you soon in another interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.